Good morning, Toastmasters.
Morning.
It's always interesting how things time out. And to Brad's intro, I am very thankful for everybody in this room and these opportunities, but there's three people that had a lot to do with my speech today, or coming up with my speech today. The first person I want to identify is Jessie, which is interesting because this isn't what I was going to say coming in here, but her speech this morning was very timely. I'm going to get into that. But really what inspired me first was a evaluation I gave a while back. And I used the term or use of language, feed forward. And Jessie identified that. And I always appreciate how she picks out those nuggets from team meetings and says, do more with that. So I'm going to try to do more with that, even though I didn't originally have more content or speech around that, but she really challenged me, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Jessie. Number two, I'm going to call out Jeremy. Jeremy, our last meeting, you were a maniac. You were a maniac. But it was one of the most enjoyable things that I've witnessed because you showed up. You showed up. You had no reason to be here because of the time you went to bed that night, but it was one of the best performances I've seen. And to be honest with you, like Brad said, a morning like this, you sit there in bed, it's like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to go in there today. I don't want to stand in front of everyone and come up with a speech. And it's just those people, that interaction, those moments, you can go back to your mind and say, I remember Jeremy showed up. And that kind of inspired me today. Finally, for my inspiration today, Mr. John Ruck, the spiritual leader of TGIF. The dapper. I was so impressed at his role of Toastmaster last time coming in. He was Mr. Dapper. But in all seriousness, what really inspired me about John was one of his past speeches about words matter. Words matter. And the first word that I'm starting with is the concept of feed forward. See, the extended title is How to Give and Receive Feedback. But feedback sometimes gives that connotation that you're going backwards. It's maybe not the intent, but words do matter. And that identity, and the words, the actions, our reactions, really shape our identity. So even small changes, such as how we use a word like feedback, and change that to feed forward, can change everything. When we're receiving information, the first place that I'm going to start is you, as the individual. How are you receiving information? We're all good at giving our opinions and giving out information, but let's first start about how we can improve how we receive that information. And this is actually why I'm really happy that Jessie had this speech that she just gave, because it's true. And the space I start with is ego is your enemy. Your ego is your enemy. Everyone takes everything so personally now. Here's the reality. Most things that happen to you is not about you. It's about the individual. So the information I'm talking about today, the feedback, it's not evaluation. It's not something in a vacuum in our speech or when Sean comes up here and evaluates me. It's what happens every day in life. You get cut off in traffic, your kids aren't listening, your boss is down your throat, etc. Like that's all information coming back to you, but how do you take that? How do you leverage that? And so understanding that information and not to take it personal is such a critical opportunity to optimize how you can build upon that. The other piece about ego being your enemy and how to overcome that, because really what it is a lot of times is fear. It's insecurities. It's concerns that that person knows something about me that is so true and I'm afraid to be exposed. To overcome that is to build up your character. And how do you build up your character? It's to hold promises you make to yourself. So I made a promise to myself to show up to give a speech today. I got home from the airport at 1 a.m. this morning from Oakland. It's freezing outside. There's every excuse in the book. But the fact that I was just here today, I don't really even care how the speech ends up. Like, I don't care if I run over time or the evaluation just gives me a list of things. The fact is, I made a promise to myself that removed so much fear that I'm happy with that, and I'm happy with myself, and that changes everything. The second point on how to receive feedback is the concept of extreme ownership. It's a very freeing concept, extreme ownership. The fact that no matter what happens to you at any given time, you have control of that situation. For example, you're in a car accident. You could get mad at the person that ran into you, or you could actually take it to a new level and ask yourself, was I driving too fast? Was I driving too slow? Could I have left the house earlier, later? If someone's at work and your boss is complaining to you about how poor of a job you're doing, do you get defensive? Or do you ask yourself, what honestly should I have done that could have changed the situation? It's such a freeing concept when you take on extreme ownership and you say, everything that happens to me, I am in control of. And because of that, you are now not defensive anymore and you live a happier life. Now I'm going to transition to giving feedback. So there's 2 key points on giving feedback to drive that feed forward. Because here's the real challenge about giving information to other individuals. You want to light a fire under them so they do with it what you want them to do with it without making their blood boil, right? That's the real trick. And so there's 2 concepts there. Number 1, context. Understanding the situation. Jesse gave great examples of context and how that changes everything. So she's helping me out today to stay within my time because she gave great examples. I'm not going to go into anymore because context is everything. But the second point is knowing what's needed for the moment. I'm going to give you an example that's completely different, and I didn't even know I was giving this person feedback or information that changed their life. When I was in high school, I was a senior on the baseball team, and there was a sophomore kid, and he was in the outfield, and he was taking fly balls, and he had been struggling, and this coach hit a fly ball to the outfield. He tripped over his feet, fell down, and missed the ball. And the whole team was laughing and probably taking it to the extremes. I had no idea what this kid's situation was. I just knew he was quiet and he was struggling. And I patted him on the back. I said, buddy, it happens to all of us. Just get back out there. No big deal. I never thought about that again. And quite frankly, I never thought about that kid again. When I left for college, his mother wrote me a letter. And in that letter, she said, that he was thinking about quitting the baseball team. And that it was just because a senior stepped up and said some kind words to him that motivated him, he stuck with it. I had no idea. So when we think about what's needed in the moment, it wasn't someone saying, this is how you run or this is how you catch the baseball. It was, just get back up, get out there, that confidence. So my action for all of you is number 1, fight the ego. Number 2, take extreme ownership. And number 3, just understand it's not about you, it's about other people. Thank you.